Jack didn't want to go to the outpost. Nobody did. It was far, cold, boring, and full of aliens who hated humans. But orders were orders. He was an engineer, and something at the outpost broke. A power core, they said, and only Jack had the skills to fix it. He landed with a sigh, holding his toolkit like it was a shield. As he walked through the dusty gates, alien eyes followed him. Some narrowed, some glared, none smiled. He kept his head low, but one name echoed in his mind. Rayla. They had warned him before he left. She's the base commander. His captain said, "Stay out of her way. She hates humans," another added, "and she's not afraid to show it." Jack thought maybe that was an exaggeration, but when he saw her for the first time, he knew they weren't lying. She stood taller than any soldier, her armor dark like obsidian, her eyes glowed faintly, like fire beneath ice. She was beautiful, in a deadly kind of way, like a sword made of light, and when her eyes locked with Jack's, he felt cold all over. She didn't say anything, just stared at him, then turned and walked away without a word. Jack was shown to his quarters by a silent alien guard. His room was small, cold, and smelled like metal and dust. He unpacked slowly, trying not to think about her eyes. The next morning, he got to work. The power core was deep underground, humming weakly and leaking energy. He worked for hours, not stopping for food or rest. Just when he wiped his brow and thought he was alone, he heard boots behind him. Rayla stood there, arms crossed, her eyes sharp. "You work fast," she said coldly. Jack shrugged. "I like machines more than people." She didn't smile, didn't move, just watched him. Jack felt her gaze like heat on his skin. He looked at her and made the mistake of saying the first thing that popped in his mind. "You have a nice butt." Time froze. His heart jumped into his throat. She blinked, once, then twice, and for a second, just 1 second, her cheeks turned a faint shade of purple, a blush. Then came the slap. It was fast and strong, and it nearly knocked him off his feet. He stumbled back, rubbing his cheek. "Ow," he said, "but fair." Rayla turned and stormed off without saying a word. Jack stood there, dazed, confused, and still alive, which was a surprise. Word spread fast. By evening, everyone on the base was whispering about it. The human made Rayla blush. They said, "No one's ever done that before." Some aliens looked at Jack with new respect. Others looked like they wanted to rip him apart. He tried to avoid attention, but it was impossible. Guards nodded to him. Mechanics handed him tools. Without asking, someone even brought him better food. Jack didn't know what to think. Was this good? Or very, very bad? He tried to finish his repairs quickly, but Rayla appeared again, this time in the mess hall, where Jack was quietly eating. She walked straight up to him, her face blank. "Follow me," she said. He followed her through silent halls, his heart pounding. They reached a small room, her office. Maybe. She closed the door, looked at him, and said nothing for a long time. Finally she spoke. "I should kill you." Jack raised an eyebrow. "For what? Complimenting you?" "You embarrassed me," she said. "I didn't mean to," he said. "It just slipped out. You're lucky I didn't break your jaw." There was silence again. Then, to Jack's surprise, she looked away. "I haven't blushed in years," she said softly, almost like it hurt her to admit it. Jack didn't know what to say, so he said, "Well, you wear the armor well." She glared at him, but this time she didn't slap him. Instead, she walked past him and opened the door. "Go fix your machines," she said, "and keep your mouth shut." Jack left, confused but curious. Something wasn't right. This alien warrior was feared by everyone, yet she blushed. Not from anger, not from shame, but something else. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he had a feeling he had just started something, and it was going to get complicated, very complicated. Asterisk, everyone on the outpost was talking about it. The slap was loud, but the blush was louder. A human had made the great alien warrior Rayla blush. It was something no one had ever seen before. Jack became a legend overnight, not because he was strong or smart, But because he said something no one dared to, and somehow he survived it, wherever he walked, aliens stared. Some smiled in secret, some looked angry, some whispered as he passed. Jack hated attention. He just wanted to fix the power core and leave. But now he was part of something strange. And it was all because of one sentence. Even the base commander's guards looked confused when they saw Jack. One of them gave a small nod, another grunted and looked away. Jack sat alone in the mess hall, eating his dry food slowly. Then a group of alien soldiers came and sat around him. Big, strong, quiet. One of them leaned in and said, "So, you like Commander Ryla's features?" Jack choked on his food. "I meant it as a joke," he said quickly. "But you meant it," the alien said, grinning. They laughed. "And it didn't feel friendly." Another one said, "Prove your words, human. Show us your strength." Jack blinked. "What?" "A friendly match," the first one said. "You fight the commander, as our ways demand." Jack almost laughed, but their faces were serious. "You're joking, right?" They were not. Later that day, the challenge was announced. A sparring match between Jack and Commander Rila. Jack wanted to say no, but the whole base was watching now. Backing out would make things worse. So he agreed, heart pounding, stomach heavy. The training ring was outside. Under a red sky, aliens gathered all around, shouting, laughing, waiting. Rila stood in the middle, calm and silent. Jack walked in with no armor, no weapon, just a nervous smile and his hands up. "This is a bad idea," he whispered to himself. Rila didn't say anything. She just stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. Jack expected pain, fast and brutal. But something strange happened. She didn't hit hard. She didn't use her full strength. She moved slow, like she was testing him. Jack dodged once, twice, and even landed a soft tap on her arm. The crowd gasped. Rila narrowed her eyes, but still didn't strike back with force. Jack realized something. She wasn't trying to hurt him. She was watching, feeling, measuring. She wanted to know if he was more than just a loud mouth. Then, without warning, she swept his legs. Jack hit the ground hard and groaned. She leaned down and offered her hand. He stared at it for a second, then took it. She pulled him up with ease, her grip strong and steady. The match ended there. No winner, no loser, just silence, then cheers, laughter, and even applause. Jack stood beside Rila, breathing hard, sweat on his face. She looked at him and said, "You're not completely useless." Jack grinned. "Thanks. That means a lot coming from someone who slapped me into next week." Rila almost smiled, but stopped herself. Instead, she walked away again. But this time slower. That night, Jack sat in his room, thinking, why didn't she crush him? Why did she offer her hand? What was she really thinking when she blushed? There was something deeper under her cold armor, something hidden, and Jack wasn't sure if he was ready to find out what it was. But now he couldn't leave, not just because of orders, but because something inside him wanted to stay. And somewhere in the dark halls of the outpost, Rila stood alone, staring at her hand, the same hand that slapped a human and then lifted him back to his feet. Jack couldn't sleep that night. The sparring match kept playing in his head again and again, not because he got knocked down, but because of what happened after. Rila didn't mock him, didn't humiliate him. Instead, she helped him up, and for a second, her face wasn't made of stone. It was almost gentle. Jack stared at the ceiling in the dark. He didn't understand her. She was like a puzzle with missing pieces, sharp, cold, proud, but something was broken inside her. And Jack wanted to know what it was. The next day, Jack returned to the power core. He needed a break from all the eyes watching him. He crawled into the maintenance shaft and let the hum of machines calm his thoughts. But his mind kept drifting back to her eyes, the way they softened, the way she looked at him when no one else was watching. Later, during lunch, Jack tried to ask around. Nobody wanted to talk about her. One alien engineer just shook his head. "She wasn't always like this," he said quietly. "Something changed her." Jack leaned in. "What happened?" But the alien walked away, refusing to say more that evening. When the halls were quiet, Jack sneaked into the restricted zone of the outpost. He had access codes from an old tech job. He wasn't proud of it, but he wanted answers. He slipped into the data room and started searching through old files. He typed her name, Ryla Varn, and the screen lit up. There were reports, missions, medals, and then one report that was sealed under a higher clearance. Jack hesitated, then cracked it open. What he read made his blood run cold. Years ago, Rayla had served with humans during a secret alliance. She trusted their commander, fought beside them, saved their lives. But during a retreat, the human commander gave her position away, left her behind to die so his ship could escape. She was captured, tortured, and barely survived. She lost her team, her rank, and her voice for nearly a year after that. She never worked with humans again. Jack sat in the dark room, stunned. No wonder she hated him. No wonder she slapped him. No wonder she was afraid to feel anything again. Because last time she did, it nearly destroyed her. He left the room quietly, guilt heavy in his chest. He didn't sleep that night either. In the morning, he found her on the training field alone. He walked up to her slowly. "I read your file," he said. Her body tensed instantly. "You had no right," she said, voice sharp. "I know," Jack said, "but I had to understand." "I don't need your pity," she snapped. "I'm not giving you pity," he replied. "I'm giving you truth." She stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Do you think because I blushed, I'm weak?" "No," Jack said calmly. "I think because you blushed, you're still alive inside." That hit her like a punch. She froze, her face unreadable. "You don't know anything about me," she whispered. "I'm trying to," Jack said. "I'm not like the one who betrayed you." She stared at him for a long time, then looked away, her voice softer now. "You say things without fear, because I'm too stupid to be scared," Jack said with a crooked smile that made her blink. Almost laugh, but not quite. She turned and started walking away again. But this time she said, "Follow me." He followed her deep into the base, past locked doors and empty tunnels. They reached a chamber Jack had never seen before. Ancient markings covered the walls, glowing faintly. "This is older than the outpost," she said. "Something is hidden here." Jack looked around, confused. "What is it?" "I don't know," Ryla said, "but I think it's waking up." She placed her hand on the wall, and the ground shook slightly. Something inside the wall responded to her touch. Jack stepped closer, the lights in his scanner flickering. "What is this place?" he asked. Ryla looked at him. "Something my enemies would kill to find." Her voice dropped. "And now that you're here, they might come for you too." Asterisk. The next morning, the sky above the outpost turned darker than usual. Thick red clouds gathered fast, like something in the air was angry. Jack stood outside, staring up, feeling a chill crawl across his skin. He didn't know why, but it felt like something was watching them. Inside the base, alarms began to blink silently. Not loud, not screaming, but just enough to signal danger. Rayla moved quickly through the halls, armor on, eyes sharp. Jack followed, trying to understand what was going on. "Unmarked ships entering orbit," she said without turning. "They're not from any alliance. Pirates?" Jack asked. "Worse," she said. "Mercs, hired guns. The kind that don't leave survivors." They reached the command room, filled with soldiers and screens. A dozen ships had entered the planet's range, moving in tight formation. Jack stared at the shapes. Sleek, black, and built for one thing only: war. Ryla barked orders in her native tongue, and the room sprang into action. Jack leaned toward her, lowering his voice. "They're here for that thing in the wall, aren't they?" "Yes," she said. "They must have intercepted one of the old signals. Can it be moved?" "No," she said, "but it can be activated." Before Jack could ask what that meant, the base shook, a low rumble like a sleeping monster. Waking up, the lights flickered, dust fell from the ceiling. and the emergency systems locked into place. Ryla grabbed his arm. "Come with me now." They ran, boots echoing through the steel corridors. Outside, explosions began to light up the hills. The mercs had landed. Fires spread fast, and the defense guns struggled to keep up. Jack saw soldiers getting dragged away, others standing their ground with nothing but old rifles. It was chaos. They reached the ancient chamber again, where the walls glowed with a strange light. Rayla moved toward the center and placed her hand on a hidden panel. The wall opened, revealing a dark crystal that pulsed like a heart. "What is that?" Jack asked, breathless. She looked at him. "It's a core fragment, older than our races combined." Before he could ask more, the door behind them burst open. 2 mercenaries stepped in, tall, armored, and cold. They aimed their weapons. Without a word, Jack raised his hands, but Ryla didn't flinch. She moved like lightning, slicing one down with a hidden blade. The other fired, and Jack barely dodged behind a pillar. The blast hit the crystal instead, and the moment it did, the whole chamber screamed, not with sound, but with pressure, heat, energy. Rayla and Jack were thrown back as the light inside the crystal exploded outward. Symbols lit up across the floor, ancient and unreadable. Jack felt something inside his head, like a whisper, but too fast to understand. Rayla stood slowly, blood on her cheek. "That wasn't supposed to happen," she said. Jack looked at her, eyes wide. "What did we just do?" "We woke it up," she whispered, and for the first time, Jack saw fear in her eyes. More mercs were coming, dozens now, maybe hundreds. The sky above turned a violent blue as their ships dropped more troops. Rayla turned to Jack, her voice sharp again. "I need you to go to the reactor and shut off the main grid." "Why?" "Because if they take this base, they'll take the power with it. And if we shut it off, they'll come for me instead," she said, stepping closer. "Which gives you time to escape." Jack shook his head. "No, I'm not leaving." "You behind. You don't get a choice," she snapped. "Yes, I do," he said, eyes firm. "I already did when I stayed." She stared at him, torn between anger and something deeper. Then she said something he didn't expect. "You remind me of the man I used to trust." Jack didn't smile. "I'm not him," he said. "I don't run." The two stood in silence as another tremor shook the chamber. Far above, the base was falling, but below, in the ancient room filled with old secrets and new fire, something stronger was rising, not just in the walls, but in both of them. Jack tightened his grip on the tool in his hand. Rayla loaded her weapon with calm hands. No more running, no more hiding. It was time to fight back. Smoke filled the air like a blanket made of ash. Jack ran through the twisting halls with sparks flying above his head. His lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The enemy was already inside the base. He could hear them. Heavy footsteps, metallic voices, weapons powering up. The outpost had become a battlefield, and the only thing standing between the invaders and the ancient power was a half-broken engineer and an alien warrior who once hated him. Rayla was gone from his side now. She had split away to lead the defense up top. Her last words still echoed in his mind. "If I fall, destroy everything." He didn't answer her back then. He couldn't. But now as he reached the reactor door, he knew what he had to do. The control room was dark and humming like a giant beast. Jack started pulling wires, flipping switches, breaking connections. He didn't care about rules anymore. He was no longer just a visitor. This was his fight too. Every wire he ripped out bought them a few more minutes. Every system he shut down made the mercs slower. Suddenly, a crash came from behind him. Jack turned, and one of the enemy soldiers stood in the doorway, tall, armored, and holding a glowing blade. Jack grabbed a wrench and held it like a sword. He knew he couldn't win, but he also knew he wouldn't run. The soldier came at him fast. Jack dodged the first swing and hit back with all his strength. It barely made a dent, but it made the soldier stumble before the enemy could strike. Again, a blast of light hit him from the side. Rayla stood in the doorway, weapon smoking, eyes wild. "You're late," Jack said, panting. "You're lucky I came at all," she replied, pulling him away from the burning console. Another wave of mercs rushed in from the hallway. Rayla moved like fire, fast, deadly without fear. Jack did his best to follow, throwing whatever he could grab. Together, they fought their way out of the control room. Step by step, they made it to a small service tunnel and slammed the door behind them, breathing heavy. Jack slid down the wall. "I thought you said to go alone," he said. Rayla leaned against the wall, her face bruised. "I changed my mind," she said. "You blush too easily to survive alone." Jack gave a tired laugh. "I didn't think you noticed." "I notice everything," she whispered, eyes closing for a second. There was a long silence between them, not just from exhaustion, but from something building inside both of them. It was more than survival now, more than fear. It was the feeling that something bigger had started between them, something unexpected and dangerous in a different way. Jack looked at her and asked the question he'd been holding back for days. "Why did you help me back there in the fight? Why risk your life for me?" Rayla opened her eyes slowly and stared at him. "I don't know," she said. "But when I saw you raise that little wrench like it was a sword, I saw a fool." "Thanks," Jack muttered. "But also," she added, "I saw someone who didn't leave me behind." Her voice shook a little when she said it. And Jack didn't speak. He just reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Then came a sharp buzzing from his communicator. A new alert. More enemy ships were descending. Reinforcements, hundreds, maybe more. The outpost had minutes left. Rayla stood up straight, her warrior face returning. "We can't hold this place anymore," she said. Jack nodded. "Then we destroy the core and escape with our lives." "If possible," she said. "If not," Jack added, "we go out together." Rayla looked at him, not with cold eyes, but with something that almost looked like warmth, almost human. She said softly, "You're insane," Jack smiled. "And you have a great butt." She slapped his shoulder. Not his face this time, it still hurt. But then, she laughed. Quiet, but real. The sound of it made Jack's heart race. Outside, the sky turned red with enemy fire. Inside the broken base, two unlikely souls prepared to do the impossible. They weren't just defending an outpost now. They were defending each other. Asterisk, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. But the way Rayla looked back at Jack before running into the fire told him everything. She wasn't just fighting for the outpost anymore. She was fighting for something she didn't know she still had. Someone who wouldn't betray her. Jack stayed frozen for a moment. The hall behind him shook from distant explosions. Alarms howled, lights flickered, and the floor felt alive under his boots, but all he could see was her shadow disappearing through the smoke. She ran into danger alone, because she trusted him to do his part. His part. He remembered the way her voice trembled just once, when she said, "If I fall, destroy everything." He hated that sentence. He hated that she always expected loss. But maybe this time, things could be different. Jack sprinted down the emergency corridor, breathing hard. He took a shortcut only engineers used, crawling through maintenance shafts and ducking under broken pipes. He wasn't strong like her, not fast, not fearless. But he had something else. He had stubbornness. He reached the central reactor room, doors half bent from the pressure waves outside. Inside, red lights blinked across a cracked control panel. The ancient power they had found, the crystal in the wall, was now linked directly to the base systems. Jack didn't know if it was safe. He didn't care. He started pulling cables with shaking hands, disabling systems, one by one. A voice came from behind, calm and cold. "You really think you can stop us, human?" Jack turned, and one of the enemy merc leaders stepped into the room. Silver armor, strange helmet, long black rifle glowing with energy. Jack grabbed the nearest tool and held it like a weapon. He was tired of being afraid. The merc stepped closer, laughing. "You're not even a soldier." Jack raised the tool higher. "I'm the guy your people always ignore," he said. "And we're the ones who break your plans." The merc fired. Jack ducked. And the blast shattered the control panel. Electric sparks flew everywhere, and smoke filled the air. Jack swung blindly, and the wrench cracked against the merc's helmet, making him stumble. The merc hit back hard, and Jack crashed into the floor, dizzy. He waited for the killing blow. But instead, there was silence. Then a thud, then another when Jack opened his eyes. He saw Rayla standing over the enemy's body. Her blade dripped blue light, her armor cracked, her breathing heavy. But she was alive. She had come back. "I told you to run," she said, her voice sharp. "And I didn't," Jack replied. Pulling himself up, "You're an idiot." "I've been called worse," he said, smiling weakly. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't look away. Behind them, the broken reactor sparked violently. They didn't have long. Rayla looked at the console, then back at him. "We can't stop them here," she said. "Then let's bring the whole thing down," he said. Rayla hesitated. "Do you understand what that means?" Jack nodded. "It means they won't win, even if we don't make it out." She stared at him, something soft passing through her eyes. For once, she didn't hide it. She touched his chest lightly, like testing if he was real. "Human," she whispered. "You're more than just strange." Jack leaned closer. "And you're more than just fearsome." Outside, the base shook harder. A wall cracked, and dust fell like snow. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the war, not the invaders, not the power beneath their feet, only the two of them. Standing in the middle of it all, Jack held her hand. "Let's finish this," he said. Together, they walked into the control pit, side by side, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as something new, something that shouldn't have happened, but did anyway. When the dust settled, nothing moved, no guns fired, no voices shouted, no machines hummed. The battlefield was quiet, as if even the planet held its breath. Jack opened his eyes slowly, blinking through ash and smoke. The last thing he remembered was pressing the override with Ryla's hand over his. Then the light swallowed everything. He coughed and pushed himself up, body aching like he'd been hit by a starship. He looked around, heart pounding, searching, hoping. "Ryla," he called, his voice barely a whisper. No answer. The ground around him was cracked and glowing faintly from the blast, broken. Weapons and shattered metal were all that remained of the mercs. But she was nowhere in sight. His heart sank. She couldn't be gone. Not after everything they'd been through. Then he saw it. Her armor, torn and dark, lying near the edge of a crater. He stumbled forward and dropped to his knees beside her. "Hey," he said, voice shaking. "Don't do this." Her eyes were closed, face covered in dust and scratches. She looked like a warrior carved from stone, but her chest rose slightly. She was breathing. Jack let out a shaky laugh, tears mixing with the grime on his face. "You're unbelievable," he whispered. "Even unconscious, you scare me." He carefully pulled her up, her arm over his shoulder. Step by step, he carried her away from the wreckage. Smoke curled in the air behind them. The ancient power was gone now, shattered, quiet. But the base still stood, and some of the soldiers had survived. By the time Jack reached the medbay, others rushed to help. He didn't want to let go of her, but he did. Because she needed more than him now. He sat nearby as they worked on her wounds, staring, waiting, not blinking. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, he couldn't tell. Then finally, her fingers moved. Her eyes opened, slow and tired, and the first thing she did was look for him. Jack leaned over and grinned. "Miss me already?" Rayla's lips twitched, like a smile was trying to break free, but didn't know how. "You look terrible," she said, her voice rough but alive. Jack nodded. "So do you." She reached up weakly and touched his cheek. "You didn't run." "Nope," he whispered. "Told you I'm too stubborn." They kept looking at each other without speaking, because some things didn't need words anymore. Outside the medbay window, the skies were clear again. The threat was gone, and the war was over, at least for now. Later, when she could walk, Ryla met Jack near the edge of the base. They stood in silence for a while, watching repair drones fly overhead. "I'm being reassigned," she said quietly. "Let me guess," Jack replied. "Someplace even worse," she nodded. "They think I should train new warriors." He chuckled. "That sounds perfect for you. They want me to pick one human to cook one human to." "Come with me," she added, not looking at him. Jack blinked. "Wait. Me?" She finally turned to face him. "You've seen my worst, and you still stayed." "Yeah," he said, smiling. "Also, your slap still rings in my ear." She stepped closer. "Say it again and I might slap you now." He leaned in. "Just a little. You have a nice..." She kissed him. It wasn't long, it wasn't soft, but it was real. And when she pulled back, her face was calm. "I'll take that as a yes," he whispered. She didn't answer, but her hand slipped into his, and that said enough. Together, they walked back toward the center of the base, not as enemies, not as a joke, but as two warriors who had survived each other, who had changed each other, and maybe, just maybe, saved something bigger than a planet. They saved the part of themselves they thought was lost.